Hey there, everybody. I'm a human with a real human body and having real human thoughts right now. It seems like the world, and by the world I mean society, the world is becoming more dystopic as the years go by. There is now a technology that can create videos and images of somebody using AI, and there is now a software that allows people to spread misinformation more easily, since softwares such as Sora and the like tend to be very good at deceiving the majority of the population. While they still have imperfections and the AI still hasn't mastered the art of creating a real life video, it's pretty darn good, right? And it's only gonna get better. A lot of people are freaking out because these applications, these softwares are going to create an additional layer of misinformation. Anybody that has control of the algorithm, anybody that has control of these systems can easily spread misinformation to meet their own agenda. And this isn't new. And personally speaking, I'm not freaking out. Not because I don't think this is a bad thing. I personally think this is a turning point in society, and we've never seen anything like it. We can create footage of somebody that and put them in an incriminating situation. And I think that's very concerning. I think it's sad, and it's dystopic. Let's just put it that way. I don't understand people that use it just in general. I don't understand the software because why would you want, this is my perspective, of course, and it's a very biased perspective, but in my biased perspective, why would you want a machine to create footage of someone or something, art, whatever you want to create? Why would you want a machine to do it when you can do it with your own hands? The beauty of the human species is that we can use our hands to create something innovative. And one can argue that AI is an innovative system that humans have created, but I think it's gone a little too far because, of course, all technology that we as humans have created, the purpose of that technology, the purpose of those inventions, is to make our lives a little easier, to make our lives a little more comfortable. But I think I read it somewhere, something about comfort being your worst enemy, too much comfort being your worst enemy, because it makes you complacent, and it speeds up that process of losing your skills or your skills becoming atrophied because you're not using your knowledge, your own hands, your own brain to create things. So what I'm trying to get at is that I don't really understand people that use systems like Sora and the such, because what's wrong with being original? I mean, and we've been losing that originality for quite some time, right? And this is nothing new. Being original or being unique has never been something that has been fostered in our society, or it seems like as the years have gone by, it's becoming harder and harder and harder to find authenticity and to find the just the originality in art or in whatever skill you want to develop. It's becoming harder and harder to develop your skills because everything, it seems like we're inventing technologies that are making our lives more comfortable, but we're becoming useless. And that's the problem that people are having with AI. They believe that we'll become useless if we become dependent on it. And that is true. Our critical thinking skills can atrophy. Our ability to think for ourselves can atrophy. And, you know, even before these systems were out in the public, I feel like critical thinking skills had been on the downfall for a long time. So, I mean, this isn't anything new. But I guess it's happening at a faster rate, and the younger generations are beginning to not even develop those critical thinking skills because they have a system that does it for them. I do think that we're going to reach a breaking point, and I have a feeling, and maybe this is just my cynical side, there's going to be some kind of a big reset in society that nobody sees coming. And usually the punches that hurt the most are the sucker punches, right? Because you don't see them coming. And I do think that we're going to get sucker punched, and as a society we won't be prepared, right? But I think, and it's going to affect all of us, just like COVID did, but on a bigger scale. But that's just my woo-woo prediction, or my woo-woo premonition, I should say. And I think, or I hope that in that big reset, we are able to rethink our priorities and come together as a species, as a Homo sapien species, and say to each other, well, we've been really fucked up for the last 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 years. And things have gotten worse as the centuries have gone by. Why can't we just get along? Or why can't we change? Or something, this tragedy will create a rebirth of something good. Or at least that's what I hope. But when it comes to AI, people are saying, okay, it's going to be a new form of misinformation. But to be honest, has anything really changed with or without these AI programs creating videos of other people? Has anything really changed? Because those that are hard-headed and aren't willing to change their beliefs, they will not accept the truth, and they'll just accept their truth, or they'll accept what fits with their worldview, even though that worldview has been debunked, or even though that worldview is fallacious in some way, they will refuse to listen to a different perspective because they're so gung-ho about their own perspective. You know what I mean? And so I think it's going to make people even more, it's going to make people double down more. This new software, these new technologies are going to make people double down more on their own biases and their own belief systems. And if they already think a certain way, they're less likely to open their mind. And maybe that's what, quote unquote, they want, for people to become more divided. But it's not new, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, the news, just like television news, the stuff that you watch on television from the very beginning, or stuff that you would read on the newspaper, it's all biased. All of these journalism companies have their own agenda depending on who owns them. And, you know, you can look back at history, and the Vietnam War is a great example, and most recently the wars in Afghanistan and all over the Middle East. How much misinformation did we get from our governments? How much information did the government cover up? And we thought we were informed, but turns out years later you find out that we didn't even scratch the surface of the truth, right? And so what I'm trying to say is that yes, it's getting worse in terms of people doubling down on their own belief systems, but we've been misinformed from the very beginning. Anytime you receive some kind of news or information from a party or an organization that is owned by billionaires, they usually have their own agenda. And most of these journalism companies, most of these social media platforms, AI, all of them are owned by billionaires that have their own hidden agendas, and it's nothing new. But yes, misinformation is being more easily spread now, but it's nothing new, is what I'm trying to say. So don't be surprised. My recommendation, if I have any recommendation in my humble opinion, I believe that quitting social media is the solution. That's my humble opinion. And I know this is ironic because I'm making this on YouTube. Okay, it's a social media. And yes, there's a bunch of misinformation on this platform. And there's a bunch of biased information. It's just an echo chamber, right? Just depends on what your bias is, and you'll receive that kind of, those algorithm recommendations, right? But besides YouTube, I guess quit YouTube too. You can't live under a rock, right? You have to be informed at least a little bit about what's going on around the world. And I made a video a really long time ago, not a really long time ago, but a while ago, I made a video about how did I title that video? If you don't read the news, you're uninformed. And if you read the news, you're misinformed, right? And it's this idea that you have to try your best, and it's hard. I struggle with it all the time, to be able to analyze any kind of information that you receive from any kind of third party, any kind of platform, books that you read, realizing that this is the person's perspective. And even though the author or the journalist or whatever type of information you're receiving, even if that person is trying to be as objective as possible, there will always be some sort of bias. So you have to use your own critical thinking skills, read both sides of an issue, and decide for yourself where you want to stand. but you decide that, not somebody else, or not being persuaded by one side because they've got more persuasive public speakers or blah, 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 blah. If anything, Christian nationalism has a bunch of persuasive speakers, but is that information true? And, well, should I say, is the information that they're sharing, is it true? Is it how Jesus would live, right? And in my opinion, no. A lot of these extremist, and I'm talking about extremist Christian nationalist groups, and any religious extremist group, this isn't exclusive of Christian nationalism. Usually, first of all, it does not promote independent thinking, and it does not help you with your critical thinking skills. I was gonna make a point about Christian nationalism, but I forgot, but it'll come back, and if it doesn't, I'll talk about it in a different video. Yeah, no, what I was trying to say is, usually these extremist groups, it doesn't have to be religious necessarily. They have extremely persuasive speakers, very persuasive speakers, and they know how to elevate your ego, but not only elevate your ego, but make certain things sound as facts, even though they're not true in reality. And so what I'm trying to say with all of that is, there might be a side of an issue where the public speakers are better, and I'm not just talking about religion, but any kind of issue. Public speakers are better, but maybe their information isn't based on facts or statistics or true statistics. But then again, statistics have been manipulated by the government. The statistics that we receive, like the inflation statistic, is an obvious lie, in the unemployment statistics, right? When you go to the grocery store, it doesn't seem like inflation is down, even though the quote-unquote statistics say that inflation is down. But you go to your local supermarket and you don't see that as true. All right, so we've been lied to, but you have to do your own research. And sometimes you have to be the researcher and actually gather that information, investigate, do your own little journalism experiment, and think for yourself. Do the critical thinking skills, or practice the critical thinking skills, right? So those are my 2 cents of the day, and I hope you have a wonderful life, and I hope you continue to be authentic, and you continue to be a cool human being. Peace and love. Bye.